morning. This is Heather Watson, your concierge realtor with Divine Fog Realty. Today we are going to be talking about interest rates. I have been procrastinating on this video for a while, only because there's so much conflicting information out there, and people's opinions of this vary based on who you are, your circumstances, your career position, etc., etc., etc. But here we go. First of all, are interest rates up? Yes, they are. And I think anyone who follows any realtor, anyone who watches any news knows that. That's no secret. However, something that I want you to keep in mind is that interest rates are up from the astronomical lows that they were. Prior to seeing the 2% and the 2.5% interest rates, if you had an interest rate of like 3.75-ish, then you are doing pretty good. So just keep that in mind as you're looking at the fact that the rates are up. They are up from the lowest of the lows, historically, the lowest of the lows. They are up also from what was previously a good number. They are about 7% right now. However, what I want you to think about when you're thinking about, is it the right time to buy? Is it the right time to sell? Because the rates are up and you're hearing the news and you're hearing all of this conflicting information. I want you to think about, do you have a credit card? And if you have a credit card, what is that interest rate? You don't have to comment, but that interest rate is probably going to be higher than your mortgage interest rates. And typically, no, people do not acquire credit card debt to the same number as the price of a home purchase. I do understand that. However, most people don't think, oh, I'm not going to use a credit card because my interest rate is too high. If they need to buy something and they have to use a credit card, they're going to use a credit card. So if you want to find a house, if you need to find a house, and you can afford the payment that you qualify for, and you can find a house that you like at that payment, then get the house. If you get with a lender and the lender says you're approved for a certain number, this is your payment, and you are not comfortable with that payment, then don't buy a house right now. The hard part is that we don't necessarily know when the rates are going to go back down, and they definitely won't go down to what they were. So we also don't know what down is going to be, and that is very unpredictable. So that's where we go back to what I said at the beginning of this video, that whether you buy right now or not is really going to depend on your circumstances. So the first step is going to be, if you think that you want to buy a house right now, find a realtor. Hi, hopefully that's going to be me. That realtor is going to have some options for you as far as lenders, and they're going to be lenders that have hopefully been vetted, that they trust the pre-approvals that their clients are given, that they trust that they can get them to closing. Once you get with that lender is going to approve you for a certain amount based on all of the things that they review. They will then be able to tell you not only how much house you can buy, but what your payment will be per month. At that point is when you have the conversation with the lender of, I like that payment, or, oh, I really wanted to keep my payment at this. So how much house would that allow me to buy? So let's say that they approve you at $300,000, but you don't like the payment. When you and that lender discuss the payment you're comfortable with, now you qualify for $200,000. Or you still qualify for $300,000, but you only want to buy a house at $200,000. At that point, you and I are going to have a conversation about, what are you looking for? How many bedrooms? What location? What style of house? Do you want move-in ready? Do you want something that can be fixed up? All the things. I'm going to send you some homes at the price point that you are comfortable based on the payment that you have discussed with the lender. If I send you these houses and you're like, no, none of these are going to work, don't like them, I'm definitely going to have to increase my budget, but I'm not comfortable with that, then don't buy right now. If I send you those houses and you're like, yeah, these are great, I'm definitely going to find a house and I definitely like my payment, then buy the house. Number one, when interest rates go down, you can refinance, assuming that you still hold your job and you qualify and all of those things. But you can refinance to get the new lower rate. The other reason that is important to know is because with the interest rates being up where they are right now, that gives you more buying power. I am having buyers' offers being accepted a very good amount under list price. I am having buyers' offers being accepted with the seller paying closing costs. It's different for buyers now than it was in the last year or two. So yes, the rates are up from those 2.5%, 2%, whatever that we saw, but you're not trying to buy a house, the same house as 10 other people. You're not paying $20,000 over asking. You're not forfeiting the home inspection to be able to get a house. So, there's always pros and cons to everything. You just have to decide based on your circumstances if the rates are going to affect you or not. So in summary of that, it's important to know that you can never change how much you pay for a house, how much you buy that house for. But there are options available to you when whatever rates go down, for you to be able to change your rate. But you cannot change how much you pay for a house. And you have to also remember that when the rates were down, where everyone loved it, what happened? The housing prices were up. And so those people that paid for homes when their rates were 2.5, that's amazing for them. However, they also paid more for the house than you're going to pay now at a 7% rate. And then you can get a new rate, again, circumstances pending, when they go back down. For now, you also have options when you put in an offer. We could ask the seller to, and sellers, I'm getting to you next, so don't be freaking out on me, okay? Side note. You can put in an offer as a buyer and ask the seller to pay your rate buy down. They can pay a certain amount to buy down your rate. So if you're going into this with a 7% interest rate, depending on multiple factors here, of course, you can potentially ask the seller to pay a certain amount towards your closing costs that will buy down your rate. So you will buy that house at a 6% rate, for example, versus a 7% rate if you don't get the seller to buy down the rate. So there are a lot of options, and I don't want to get into all the technicalities, because everything that I'm saying to you is really going to depend on, again, your circumstance and where you're comfortable. And that's why it's important to, first and foremost, work with a realtor that you are comfortable with and that you feel like you trust what they say and they're not just trying to sell you a house. You have to work with a realtor that you trust that they are working with a vetted lender. You have to work with a realtor that you trust that if you're not comfortable with your payment now, that they're going to follow up with you and that they're going to check on you, and that when the rates go down, that they're the first person to let you know that the rates are down and that your time to buy has come, or whatever your, again, circumstance is. So that's going to be the end of the buyer portion of this video. Now I'm just going to talk a little bit to the sellers, because I know a lot of people who are thinking about listing their house and are hearing this are like, well, why in the world would I sell my house right now if people are offering me less and expecting me to pay closing costs and buy down the rate and prices are dropping and all the things. So let's get into that. This week, I have had 4 people reach out to me to give them comps on their home, and I have priced their homes at a list price that is competitive with the market, but I have not had one seller, which that's only 4, but I've had multiple in the past few months who've asked me to price their house competitively with the market and what I would suggest listing it. I have not had one of them go, oh, that's much less than I thought, I'm not comfortable, I'm gonna wait to sell. All of them still love the number that I'm telling them, and I'm confidently telling them this number. All of them still feel like it's a time to sell. What we have to understand, or what you have to understand as a seller, is that you're seeing housing prices drop, but that's because they were crazy high to begin with. They're dropping to level out, but you've still acquired, depending on when you purchased your home, of course, a good amount of equity. It's still a good time to sell. Your house still won't sit forever. You just need to trust your realtor. Your realtor has to have negotiation skills, know what's going on in the market, and be able to get you the most amount of money with the least amount of work. In summary, get with a realtor that you trust. That's step number 1, whether you are a buyer or a seller. Number 2, once you get with that realtor, you and that realtor, can have a conversation to decide if the rates are going to affect you right now or not. And if they are, what our game plan is going to be so that we can get you in a house, whether that be right now with the current rates and the options available to you, or whether that be in the future which we don't know when that future is going to be when the rates go down. If you are a seller, picking a realtor that has excellent negotiation skills, understand what's going on in the market, and can also talk to you about your situation and decide, is now a good time to sell, or is it a good time to sell in the future when rates go back down to whatever that may be. And that conversation is going to be the difference between if these rates are actually a problem for you or not. And that is pretty much the short story to everything that I just said in this video. Picking a realtor that you trust, talking about your specific situation, and then deciding where you are with rates right now. Stop listening to the news, stop reading various statuses, giving conflicting information. Go with somebody you trust, go with someone who listens to you and what works. And hopefully that's me. Have a good day.